I was still holding my grandmother's hand when my husband leaned in and whispered, "Get your bag. Act normal. We're leaving." At first, I thought he was teasing. But then I saw his face, pale, tense, eyes darting across the crowd like a soldier scanning a battlefield. I'd never seen him look like that before. This wasn't nerves. This wasn't anxiety. This was fear. The kind of fear that crawls up your spine and makes you cold all over. That was the moment I realized we weren't just at a birthday party. We were standing in the middle of a trap. If you've ever had family betray your trust, or felt the sting of someone plotting behind your back, this story is going to hit hard. Hit that like button, subscribe, and get comfortable, because you're about to hear how a simple birthday party turned into a fight for my grandmother's life and her legacy. I wasn't supposed to get that phone call. In fact, I had spent years telling myself it was better this way, better not to answer when my father called, better not to reopen old wounds. But that Sunday afternoon, I was folding laundry when the screen lit up with a name I hadn't seen in months, Dad. I almost let it go to voicemail. Almost. Instead, I pressed accept. "Hi, Dad. My girl, how are you?" The cheer in his voice made me freeze. My dad wasn't a warm man. He wasn't cruel, exactly, but he had this way of making me feel small. Like I was always failing some invisible test. Calls like this only came when he needed something. "I'm fine," I said cautiously. "What's going on?" "Well, it's your grandmother's birthday next week. 85. Can you believe it? We're throwing a big party at the house. Sierra's organizing most of it, but it'd mean a lot if you came." I gripped the phone tighter. Sierra. Even just hearing her name made my stomach knot. My sister and I hadn't spoken properly in years. Growing up, she was the golden child, prettier, smarter, more popular. Or at least, that's how she wanted the world to see her. She thrived on competition, but it was always a rigged game. If I succeeded, she found a way to outshine me. If I stumbled, she made sure everyone saw it. And now she was planning Grandma's party? But then I thought about Grandma Rose. My anchor. My safe place. The woman who practically raised me when Dad was too busy and Sierra too cruel. Grandma's house was where I learned to bake cookies, where she taught me to sew, where she told me bedtime stories about strong women who survived anything. She was gentle, but she was strong. She was love in its purest form. How could I say no to celebrating her? "Of course," I said finally. "I'll be there." Dad seemed almost too pleased. "That's wonderful, sweetheart. It'll mean the world to her." But when I hung up, a pit opened in my stomach. Something didn't feel right. That evening, I told my husband, Jake. He frowned instantly. "Your dad invited you out of nowhere? After all this time?" "Yeah. I know it sounds strange, but it's Grandma's birthday. She deserves to be celebrated." Jake leaned against the counter, arms folded. He wasn't the type to mistrust easily, but he'd seen enough of my family's games to be wary. "Then I'm coming too," he said firmly. "Just in case." At the time, I laughed. "It's just a party, Jake." But looking back now, I know his instincts were sharper than mine. Because this wasn't just a party. It was a stage set for betrayal. Perfect, let's dive into part 2, Arrival at the Party plus Red Flags. This section should run about 7 to 8 minutes of narration, setting the uneasy atmosphere, introducing the fake perfect party, Grandma's condition, and Sierra/Dad's suspicious behavior. The week leading up to the trip felt off. I couldn't shake the nagging feeling in my gut, but I ignored it. I told myself I was being dramatic. It was just a birthday party, right? But when we finally pulled up to my childhood home, that uneasy feeling turned into something sharper. Something darker. The house looked different. Too different. The lawn was trimmed like it had been cut with nail scissors. Balloons lined the fence, all perfectly color-matched. The porch had a fresh coat of paint, like the whole place had been staged. I sat there in the car staring at it, and Jake muttered under his breath, "This doesn't feel like a birthday party. It feels like a show." When we walked up the driveway, Dad was waiting with open arms and the fakest smile I'd ever seen. "Maya! My girl! You made it." He hugged me tight, but his grip was stiff, controlled, like a politician posing for a camera. And then there was Sierra. She came striding up with a clipboard tucked under her arm, her smile wide and polished, like she was the host of some reality TV show. "So glad you could make it, Maya." "Really?" Her tone had that sharp sweetness I knew all too well. The kind of sweetness that had poison underneath. Jake gave me a subtle look. He didn't have to say it out loud, he felt it too. But then my eyes landed on the person I came for, Grandma Rose. She was sitting in her favorite armchair near the sliding doors. The same chair where I used to curl up beside her with storybooks when I was a kid. But this time, she didn't look like herself. Her shawl hung loose around her shoulders. Her eyes were foggy, blinking slowly, like each moment took too much effort. When she smiled, it was faint, almost confused. I rushed over and knelt beside her. "Hi, Grandma. It's me." She blinked, her lips parting. "Maya, you came?" Her hand felt ice-cold in mine. My throat tightened. This wasn't the vibrant woman who used to beat me at Scrabble and laugh until her cheeks turned red. This was someone dulled. Dimmed. Before I could say anything else, Sierra swooped in, her voice smooth but sharp. "She's just tired. Doctor says it's normal for her age." But the way she said it, too quick, too defensive, set every alarm bell in my body ringing. Jake touched my arm lightly, pulling me closer. "Notice the men outside?" he whispered. I glanced through the glass doors. At the back fence, 3 men in plain suits stood perfectly still. Not mingling. Not drinking. Just watching. "Security?" I asked. Jake's jaw tightened. "No badges. No uniforms. They're not here for safety. They're guarding something. Or someone." I swallowed hard, looking back at Grandma. She was staring at her lap, her hands twitching slightly like she wanted to say more but couldn't. The pit in my stomach grew heavier. The rest of the afternoon was a blur of strange moments. Every time I tried to get Grandma alone, Sierra popped up out of nowhere. "Let her rest, Maya. She gets confused easily." Or my father would appear with some distraction, a toast to give, a story to share. It was like they were orchestrating the entire event, keeping me just far enough from Grandma to stop me from asking questions. And then there were the decorations. Every photo on the walls had been swapped out. Not family photos. Not pictures of Grandma smiling on her porch. No. They were framed documents. Bank statements. Certificates. Copies of legal-looking papers in fancy borders. I whispered to Jake, "Why would anyone hang this stuff at a birthday party?" He leaned in closer. "Because this isn't a birthday party. This is a performance. They're staging something." And he was right. Every detail, from the clipboard in Sierra's hand to the suited men by the fence, felt rehearsed. Fake. Like we were watching a play we hadn't bought tickets for. The unease that started in my gut was now a full-on drumbeat in my chest. Something was wrong. Very, very wrong. When Jake slipped out, I thought he was just getting some air. He's never liked crowded family events, and this one felt more suffocating than most. But when he came back, maybe 20 minutes later, his expression froze me in place. He pulled me into the hallway, out of earshot from Sierra and Dad, and whispered, "Don't react. Just listen." My heart stuttered. "Jake, what's wrong?" He took out his phone and showed me a photo. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. It was just a close-up of wires running along the edge of the porch. Thin, tucked away like they'd been hidden. "What is that?" I asked. "Recording equipment," Jake said. His voice was low, tight. "Video or audio, maybe both. They're not recording a party. They're recording her." My stomach dropped. "Grandma?" He nodded. "And that's not all." He swiped to another photo. This one made my skin crawl. A small, unmarked pill bottle, hidden behind the silverware drawer. The cap dusted with white powder residue. "Jake," I whispered. "That's not hers." "Exactly," he said. And I checked the bathroom downstairs, the cabinet's empty. Her real prescriptions are gone. All that's left are these. My pulse was hammering so loud I could barely hear him. "What are they giving her?" Jake's eyes darkened. "Sedatives. Enough to make her foggy. Confused. Just coherent enough to perform at the party, but too weak to ask questions." I felt my knees go weak. Why would they do this? Jake hesitated, then said what I hadn't dared think aloud. "Because if she looks incompetent, they can take control. The house. The money. Everything she's built." It was like ice water poured over me. I thought about the framed documents on the walls, the clipboard Sierra guarded like a weapon, the way Dad kept directing everyone's attention away from Grandma. "No," I whispered. "They wouldn't." But deep down, I knew they would. Jake's voice was urgent now. "We can't let on that we know. If they realize, they'll shut us down, or worse. When the cake comes out, everyone's attention will be outside. That's when we leave. Quietly. No scene." I swallowed hard, forcing myself to nod. My throat was too tight to speak. But inside, my mind was spiraling. I remembered Sierra bragging years ago about how she'd never settle for less than everything. I remembered Dad's cold tone whenever money came up, how he always said Grandma's house was a waste on an old woman who barely uses it. I didn't want to believe it. But all the pieces fit. And the picture they painted was horrifying. Back in the living room, I tried to act normal. Smiling, nodding, making small talk. But every time I glanced at Grandma, my chest clenched tighter. She was there, but not there. Her hands trembled when she lifted her cup. Her eyes drifted around the room, unfocused, like she was lost in a fog. And yet, beneath that haze, there was something else. Something raw. Her gaze would lock onto mine for a second, just a second, and I could see it. Fear. That was the worst part. She knew something was wrong. She just couldn't fight through the drugs to tell me. Jake leaned close, his lips barely moving. "Remember, cake. That's our moment." I nodded, heart pounding. Minutes later, Sierra clapped her hands like a ringmaster at a circus. "All right, everyone. Time for cake." The crowd moved toward the patio, voices rising in laughter and cheer. Jake squeezed my wrist. "Now." We slipped through the side door, trying to blend into the flow of guests. My palms were slick with sweat. Every step felt too loud, too obvious. I forced myself not to look back. Not at Sierra with her perfect fake smile. Not at Dad, raising a glass in his hand. Not even at Grandma, sitting small and quiet in her chair, trapped in that haze. We made it to the car without a word. No one shouted after us. No one ran out the door. For a moment, I thought maybe we'd imagined it all. Maybe the unease, the wires, the pills, maybe it was paranoia. But then Jake pulled a folder from his jacket. "I didn't just find pills," he said. His voice was sharp, urgent. "Look." Inside were copies of documents. Not originals, photocopies, left on a desk in Dad's study. One was a medical report, stamped but suspiciously vague, labeling Grandma as mentally diminished. Another was a power of attorney form, and signed but pre-filled with her name, and Sierra's listed as the sole controller of her estate. And the last was a letter drafted to the bank. A transfer request. Moving Grandma's accounts into a family trust with my father's name at the top. My stomach turned. "They're not just planning this," I whispered. "They've already started." Jake's jaw was tight as he shoved the papers back. "This isn't a party, Maya. This is a cover. They want witnesses, people who'll swear she seemed confused, who'll say Sierra and your dad were the ones taking care of her. They're building a case." It hit me like a punch to the chest. This wasn't clumsy greed. This was strategy. Cold. Calculated. We sped down the street, the house shrinking in the rearview mirror. But my chest wouldn't unclench. Not yet. Because Grandma was still in there. Alone. "We have to go back," I blurted. "We can't just leave her there." Jake's knuckles whitened on the wheel. "If we barge back in, they'll know we found the evidence. They'll destroy it, or worse. We need to be smart. We get proof. We call the right people. Then we go back for her, and we make it count." Tears stung my eyes. "What if we're too late?" He didn't answer. He didn't have to. The silence said everything. We pulled into a gas station a few miles out, the fluorescent lights buzzing above us. Jake spread the documents out on the dashboard, snapping clear photos with his phone. "Multiple copies, multiple places," he muttered. "We'll store them in the cloud, send them to a lawyer, even mail hard copies if we have to. If they try to bury this, they won't succeed." I nodded, my hands trembling as I helped. Each shutter click of the phone felt like a lifeline, one more layer of protection, one more shield against whatever Sierra and Dad were planning. When we were done, I leaned back against the seat, shaking. "So what now?" Jake was about to answer, but then my phone buzzed. I froze. The screen lit up with a text from an unknown number. One sentence. "You should have stayed out of this." My breath caught in my throat. "Jake, they know." He stared at the message, his face darkening. Then he locked eyes with me and said, calm but deadly serious. "No, Maya. That means we're closer than they want. And now, they're scared." That text message didn't just rattle me, it split the night open. Jake and I sat in the car under the buzzing gas station light, both of us staring at my phone screen. "You should have stayed out of this." For a long second, neither of us spoke. Then Jake reached over, locked the doors, and turned off the car lights. "They're watching us," he said flatly. "We need to assume every call, every text, even GPS is compromised." My mouth went dry. "You think they're following us?" He didn't answer. He just started the engine and pulled out of the station, taking back roads instead of the highway. Within minutes, I saw it, a pair of headlights 2 cars back. No matter how many turns we took, it stayed there. Not close enough to look suspicious, but never far enough to disappear. My pulse hammered. "Jake." "I see it," he said. His voice was steady, but his knuckles were white on the steering wheel. "They're making sure we know. We didn't go home. We went to a small motel an hour away, cash only. The kind of place no one posts reviews for." Jake pulled the curtains tight and dumped his backpack on the bed. Inside were the copies of Grandma's papers, his laptop, and a burner phone still in the packaging. "Rule 1, no personal phones," he said, sliding mine into a foil-lined pouch. "Rule 2, every step we take from here on out, we document. We don't confront. We build a case." I sat down, my hands trembling. "And then what?" He met my eyes. "Then we take her back. But we do it legally, with proof. They've built a story. We're going to build a stronger one." For the first time that night, a flicker of hope broke through the fear. We spent the next hours turning the motel room into a war room. Jake uploaded every photo to multiple cloud accounts. We recorded a video explaining what we'd found, names, dates, locations. We sent it to 2 of my friends, with instructions to call the police if they didn't hear from us in 24 hours. Then Jake reached out to someone I hadn't expected. A lawyer friend of his mother's. A quiet, meticulous woman who specialized in elder abuse cases. He explained everything, sent her the documents, the photos, the video. Her response came within minutes. "This is serious. Do not go back there tonight. I'll get an emergency injunction started at first light. You'll have police on your side. Stay hidden until then." I stared at the message. "So that's it? We just wait?" "For tonight, yes," Jake said. "If we walk in there now, they'll destroy the evidence, or her. We go back when the law is behind us." I hated it. Every instinct in me screamed to run back, to grab Grandma Rose and drag her out myself. But I forced myself to sit still. Because Jake was right. We weren't just fighting a greedy sister and a manipulative father. We were fighting a story they'd spent months crafting. We needed ours to be bulletproof. But as the hours crept by, the threats escalated. First, another text. "We know where you are." Then a call on the motel room phone, no voice, just breathing. And finally, a photo sent to the burner Jake had just activated. Grandma, in her chair. A single tear running down her cheek. My heart cracked. "They're taunting us," I whispered. Jake's jaw clenched. "They're trying to scare us into doing something stupid." I looked at him, my eyes burning. "Then we do something smart. We go back at dawn. We bring the police. And we end this." He nodded once. "We end this." Dawn came gray and heavy. I barely slept. Every tick of the motel clock felt like a drumbeat in my skull. But when the knock came at the door, I knew it was time. 2 police officers stood there, along with Jake's lawyer contact, Ms. Alvarez. She was small, sharp-eyed, and carried a briefcase like a weapon. "You have the documents?" she asked. Jake handed her the folder. She nodded once. Good. Let's go. The drive back to Grandma's house felt different this time. Not quiet, not fearful, focused. Police cruisers followed a few cars behind, their lights off, engines low. As we turned down the familiar street, I saw it, balloons still tied to the fence, banners sagging from the night before. The house looked almost festive in the morning light, but the cheer was gone. It felt hollow. My chest tightened. Hold on, Grandma. Just a little longer. When we walked inside, Sierra's smile faltered for the first time. Maya, she said, her voice too sweet. Back so soon? Dad appeared behind her, arms crossed. We thought you had somewhere else to be. I forced myself to stand tall, even though my hands shook. Actually, we do. Right here. And then the officers stepped through the doorway. The room shifted instantly. Guests froze mid-sip of their coffee. Sierra's smile snapped. Dad's eyes widened, then narrowed like knives. What is this? He demanded. Ms. Alvarez opened her briefcase, calm as stone. This, she said, is an injunction. Effective immediately, Rose is not to be moved, medicated, or signed onto any legal document until a full investigation is complete. Sierra's face drained of color. That's ridiculous. But the officer cut her off. Ma'am, step aside. I rushed past them all, straight to Grandma. She was still in her chair, her shawl slipping off one shoulder, eyes heavy with that unnatural fog. Grandma, I whispered, taking her hand. It's me. You're safe now. We're here. For a second, I thought she wouldn't respond. That maybe the drugs had buried her too deep. But then her fingers curled weakly around mine. Her lips trembled. Maya? Tears spilled down my cheeks. Yes. Yes, it's me. Her eyes fluttered open just enough to catch the light, and I swear, I saw relief. Pure, aching relief. Behind me, voices rose. You can't do this. Sierra snapped. She's incompetent. Dad shouted. This is our family matter. But the officers were unmoved. One read them their rights. Another began bagging the pill bottles as evidence. Jake leaned close to me, his voice low. They're finished. And for the first time in weeks, maybe months, I believed him. Later, at the hospital, tests confirmed everything Jake had suspected. Grandma had been given a cocktail of sedatives not prescribed by her doctor. Dangerous levels. Enough to keep her subdued, confused, controllable. When she was stable enough to speak, she squeezed my hand and whispered. I knew you'd come. And I broke. All the fear, the anger, the grief, it spilled out of me in sobs as I held onto her hand like I'd never let go again. In the end, Sierra and my father faced charges for elder abuse, fraud, and attempted financial exploitation. Their birthday party cover-up became evidence against them. Grandma Rose is recovering now. She's fragile, yes, but she's lucid again. Her smile is back. And when she looks at me, I don't just see her, I see her strength. If there's one thing I learned from this, it's that evil doesn't always look like a stranger in the dark. Sometimes, it looks like family. Smiling at you from across the table. But the truth? The truth always finds a way out. And Grandma Rose? She's not going anywhere. Not as long as I'm here. So, what do you think? Would you have gone back into that house? Or would you have walked away for your own safety? Let me know in the comments, and if this story kept you hooked, Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss the next one. Because sometimes, karma doesn't just call. It knocks on the front door.